If you are a queer person who wants to experience more queer joy in your life, if you have challenges with coming out and you want that kind of flipped on its head, if you have parents that are having a hard time with you showing up fully as you are, Dr. Lulu breaks down exactly how to overcome each and every one of those. Dr. Lulu is an incredible queer Black woman who has done the work. She has identified where her own biases are with her own trans daughter coming out, but also her own identity with being a lesbian who also liked boys, to realizing what bisexuality was, to then discovering she's pansexual. And so, if you are a queer person who just wants to have some real practical resources on how to navigate all of the challenging things that can come up as a queer person, you're in for a treat. This is Proud to Lead. There was something that you shared in your TED Talks that was so powerful for me listening to it as a bisexual man, and it was the idea that coming out places the burden on the wrong person, and instead of thinking about coming out, thinking more in terms of how do we create an environment where you're welcomed in and you're invited in. And there was like this like relief I automatically felt of, oh, that's so empowering that I could invite people into my life, and that it's their responsibility to create an environment where they are safe to welcome in and be invited in. Can you tell me a little bit more about where that kind of idea comes from?
It was not an original. Dr. David Johns, who is really, I think they're the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, used inviting in somewhere. And then Karamo Brown also used invited in. So they all kind of were mentioned in the article that I read. I said, okay, this is really interesting. So the idea is that, well, listen, today's world, the queer person is either outed, unfortunately, or forced to come out multiple times. But I just thought, how nifty would it be if it's my party anyway. I'm the host of the party. So I get to invite all the people that I want to invite. But the next level of that is not only do I get to invite you, I also get to upgrade you to VIP, or I get to rescind my invitation. So if I find that you are no longer worthy of being in my sphere, in my queer world, in my, in my realm, then I get to disinvite you. And I think people do that for weddings, people do that for funerals, people do that all the time. So then the onus is on the queer person to recognize the power that they have, as opposed to, well, mom, I'm gay. Will you accept me? No. Mom, I'm telling you that I'm gay, and this is the rules of engagement.
I'm thinking about middle school aged me being in middle school, walking the track, and a group of girls coming to me and asking, hey, I want to ask you something. And immediately I knew what they were going to ask, because it was a question that I was asked over and over and over again: are you gay? And when they asked, the anxiety and the fear that came up of like, oh, I'm a victim to something I didn't choose, something that I was just born into. In thinking, if only that middle school version of me had this concept of, oh, wait, no, this isn't something I'm a victim to. This is a party
Period.
I get to invite
Yes.
people into. I'm almost like, I almost want to cry thinking about how much more peaceful and joyful and like, at that time, there was a lot of like unaliveness that I was considering,
Yes.
thinking about, and
Yes.
the depression that created like such a distraught version of myself. When I was listening to your TED talk where you were talking about inviting people into this party, and even now this idea of being able to uninvite people, like, oh, you have
Yes.
that power. That's like
We
that,
still have the
that
power. Yes. Just embracing this. Wait, 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 wait. You mean I didn't have to tell my mom? No, you didn't. You could have told your dad and not your mom. You could have told your mom
mm,
and not your dad. You could have told your mom and dad and not your grandma. You could have told your grandma and not your mom and dad. It's like, just who do you feel psychologically safe with? And which is great, because I'm having my first webinar for the year, and it's titled To Come Out or Not, 3 things you should know before you decide. And one
mm,
of them obviously is, do you have a safe space? Now, at 55, when I came out or when I invited the rest of the world into my pansexual world, at 55, I could take it. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I'm an adult, I have my own money, I have my own whatever. At 15, maybe not. And not every 55-year-old can take it, right? So
Mhm.
just allowing them to recognize the fact that before you do anything, and one of the examples I used in my live video 2 days ago was, just being ready to do anything, getting ready to go to the party, getting ready to come on the podcast, getting ready to take an exam. You always say, wait, am I ready? Like it's just normal. It's like, wait, am I ready? Okay, how do I look? Is the dress good? I mean, I know it looked good 2 days ago, but today, like, is my makeup all right? Like, but there's always that, am I ready? So even when it comes to inviting people in, am I ready? And so
Mm,
just pausing to ask yourself, wait, am I ready? And it's okay. I can say I'm gay without shrinking. Okay, phew. I have Uncle Buck and I know he's got my back. Okay, and we have a home where I can run to if my parents act whack. And then say, okay, mom, dad, I have something to tell you. And then because I talk to parents, well, parents, here's what's going to happen. I don't care what anybody says. Your parent cannot bring up house chores when you tell them you're gay. I don't care who it is. This is not the time to go do the dishes. This is not the time to go clean your room. That's a deflection. I was that kid. No kid wants their parent to deflect that moment. Are you kidding? Do you know what it took for the child to finally say those words? This is not the time to go
yeah.
clean your room. Parents, stay, feel the emotion, feel it and feel it, experience it, stay
Mm,
there and say the right thing. Like, thank you for telling me. Wow, tell me more. Like,
mhm,
congratulations. How can I help you? How can I make you feel safer? What can I do to support you? Right. And so the more I tell people about it, people like you on your podcast, the more people hear about it, the more people know what to say. Because as I said in my book, a lot of the kids are hiding in plain sight. This
mm,
thing here says every trans adult was a trans child hiding in plain sight. So you don't know which of your kids is gay. You truly don't know unless they tell you. You don't know who is trans. You don't know who is bi until they tell you. I mean, you can suspect. And so I tell parents, I said, a lot of us, we kind of suspect, we low key know, but because we're not asking for gay kids and asking for trans kids yet in today's world yet, because it's not been normalized enough yet, then I think parents need to step back and say, okay, should it happen? How do I respond?
mm,
Should it happen? Because it might be my best friend that has a crush on me. It might be my neighbor's daughter. I mean, we don't know who. But should it happen, how can I respond? I wish I had me when I was a younger parent. I would have known what to say because I was like, are you sure? Trans? Wait. I thought you were just gay. Wait. What about the non-binary? I did that. I was like, wait, what? Are you sure? The kid is 22. Yes, they're sure. But that's where my brain went. So now I tell the parents in my book, I said, look, I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to make them. So you
mm.
don't have to make them. Yeah. So,
Think about my coming out experience. I came out, last year, actually, publicly, but I didn't come out, widely first. Like, luckily, me and my wife have known each other since I was like 13 years old. And she was one of the very first people to know when I was like 15 years old that I was queer. And I didn't know the term bisexual until I was 23. And so I knew I was attracted to her, but I was also attracted to men. And so I thought, well, because I'm attracted to men, I must be gay, but I'm also attracted to women. I'm attracted to my wife. So I'll marry my wife and just like hopefully ignore all of the societal pressures. And then I discovered the word bisexual and it was by accident. I was reading a random book and it said bisexual. And I was like, what does that mean? And so I started doing research and I was like, oh, this is me. I found it. This is who I am. And then I started to release it slowly to like a friend that I knew was okay. I'm safe with them. And the safety came not because they said anything
Safety
specific.
cannot be.
It was so many other things. Like, they never made fun of LGBTQ plus people. They
Yes.
positively, it just was so safe. And you said something like being able to say to yourself, "Oh, I'm bisexual." That was a big
With
deal
that,
for me.
yes, with that's the
Like,
first, yeah, that's the first person you come out to. Let's be
is
honest, right?
yourself. Is like
The
being able
first
to
person
say it out loud.
yeah, the first person you come out to is yourself. The first person to accept you is yourself, and the first person to affirm you is yourself. And today I was talking about the fact that, you can do, if you don't have all three, if you still say it and duck and still say it and shudder, if you still say it and you're not, it's not time yet. And as a
Mm,
pediatrician, I know I always use toddlers as an example. No matter how bold that 6-month-old is, no matter how bold that 7-month-old is, maybe even that 9-month-old, they're not ready to walk yet. But there's something about turning one. There's something about turning one, because by then they've had a few tries, a few misses, yeah, it's not that bad. And then they take a couple and then the word toddle means literally unsteady steps. That's the word toddle. And then they fall and then look around, nobody's looking good. Okay, let me get up and try again. And then one day they took off and they ran across the room. But it didn't begin the day they walked. And the parents were like, oh my God, he walked. No, no, honey, listen. He had to stand, right? And he's been
yeah,
walking, him walking this whole time. So he's been walking, just not independently. And so it's
yeah,
all a process. So sometimes I sit down and I think, and I just think about my life and I'm like, wow. When they say everything happens for you, it's not a joke. Because if I wasn't a pediatrician, I wouldn't have that example. If I wasn't a pediatrician, I wouldn't know that all kids know their gender identity at 2. If I wasn't a pediatrician, I wouldn't know so many things. I'm like, I needed to be a physician before becoming an educator. I just needed that. And then today, I'm like one of one, which is what I told Oprah. I said, I'm N of one. I don't know any other physician who is teaching other physicians this.
yeah.
Yeah. So I needed
So
to be
powerful.
queer. I needed to come out first at 9 to myself. And then at 11, very unsure, to my aunt. And she was like, oh, you're going to hell. And I ran back into the closet. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go to hell. I'm Catholic. And then I
Yeah,
tiptoed out at 16. And my dad said, oh, it's a phase. And I ran back into the closet. I was like, oh, if it's a phase, then my dad is right. And then at 22, I tiptoed out in medical school because I went to an all girls school. And I was like, okay, I'm a lesbian, but why do I like boys? Because that's not what lesbian is. But okay, I guess I'm a lesbian who likes boys. And literally, that was my terminology. And then at medical school, I heard the term bisexual. That's me. But what is this about being mental illness? Oh no. Oh, that's that. I'm not that. I'm not mentally ill. And so I stayed hiding in plain sight. Stayed hiding in plain sight. And then when I was married to my ex-husband, I was just living a heterosexual life because that's what I was like, okay, fine, fine. I'm just fine. I'm going to do this. But the whole time I knew I wasn't. And then I met my friend Keisha, and she was my running partner. And I just had the crush of life on her. And she was happily married to her husband. So I couldn't tell her anything. I just stayed until after the divorce. Then I met my ex wife. And then I was like, oh, phew, okay. Okay, well, I still have a crush on, okay, so this is okay, so okay. So yeah, I guess I am bisexual. And then I met this lady after my divorce and I was like, "Wait, what do you mean you're trans? What do you mean?" She's like, "Oh, I'm trans." I said, "How can you be trans? I love you." She was like, "Yeah, but I'm trans." We didn't have a relationship, but I just had like this crush on her. I was like, "You can't be trans." She's like, "Yeah, well, I'm trans. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't really like me." I said, "No, no, no, I do. I gotta have I have a crush on you. I want to go out with you. Like, I want to do you right now." She was like, "Yeah, well, I'm trans." And then I was like, "Okay." And then that passed rather. And then I met this other guy. I was like, oh my God, he is so hot. Like, oh my God. And then we go to DC I was like, wait, what are you doing here? Why are you here to testify about transgender people? And he was like, because I'm trans, you? I was like, wait, forget about me. What did you say? He was like, I'm trans. I was like, well, how do I have a crush on you? Okay, wait. Pansexual? Oh. Oh. Oh, at 55. So I tell people all the time that it's a continuum. We're just becoming. Nobody has gotten there yet. And that's why my friend Holly came out after 39 years of married to her wife as a trans woman. 39 years of being married to her wife. She came out as a trans woman at like 69 or something. So it's a continuum. And it's so beautiful. If more people would just allow themselves just be. And that's why I say that most intense homophobes are closeted. Because there's no other reason why you have this visceral reaction to something that doesn't really bother you. No, you must be feeling the shackles of not being able to live out loud. And so you have to come for those who are.
Mm,
It's
I think that's so
crazy.
beautiful. In giving yourself permission, no matter what age, to still have the fluidity and exploration and openness to say there's so much more about me that I'm still learning, that we are our first students of ourselves. And like I knew when I was 4 years old that I was attracted to men, to boys. Like I knew that. And so I was aware of it first. So when I came out last year publicly, I came out to family, met like all of my family. I posted it on like social, and it was just like I don't want to hide this anymore. I'm I'm married to the love of my life. We have a beautiful baby girl, and still it feels like this secret has morphed into shame. Where I thought this I was protected, I'm now feeling so much. It feels so much more negative to hold on to this version of myself in private and it does in public. And now that I'm out, it's like, oh my God, there's so much freedom and joy and like so many relationships. And I grew up in a hyper religious,
Oh,
like a very religious family and environment.
not more
And
than the Nigerian Catholics, I'll tell you that, because Nigerian Catholicism is just like, oh,
yeah.
they're
And
so
so I feel like
religious.
it was so much harder for me, not just to come to terms with myself, but I also didn't want to go to hell. I also didn't want to lose my community and relationships. Like I knew it was worse to be this than anything else. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that. And so when I finally took over the power and said, "You know what? No, this is who I am, and I'm going to step boldly into it." It was so freeing, and it's so great to hear from you, 55, coming out as pansexual. Um, I think about like if I would have come out so much sooner and earlier if the environment was safer. And I know you speak with
Yes.
parents a lot. I've had a mixed reaction from family members, from
Uh-huh.
okay, I love you, but don't ever talk about it. Don't ever bring it up, to, oh my gosh, I love that you're finally accepting yourself, to, we're not talking to you anymore until you
Uh-huh.
choose to be straight again. It's like,
Period.
wait a minute, I don't think you understand.
Yeah, it was
um,
never a choice.
what
The
would
only choice
you
I made was to tell you. Go ahead.
Yeah, what would you say to parents who are listening to this who don't know how to respond? They're like, this is scary to me. I don't know what this means, whether it's religious or culture or society or just like the future they envisioned is not the future they're getting. What would you say to the parent listening right now on how to respond when their child comes out?
Before I answer that question, hold on to it. There's something you said earlier on that made me write a note down. When you said once I decided to embrace it, just how freeing it is. I wanted to talk about one of the things I tell the physicians that I train, that I coach at the medical school. I always tell them, I said, ask your patients about queer joy. Because every time my people see me, they think, oh, your daughter is trans. Oh God, how are you coping? I'm like, wait, what? What makes you think I'm suffering? What makes you think I'm struggling? Like, the same reason you think I'm struggling is the same reason why I'm so happy that, oh my goodness, you want to send me thoughts and prayers and flowers? No. I want my kid to be alive. So I want the doctors to recognize that their patients have queer joy. A lot of patients who are queer are very, very happily queer. A lot of them are finally able to be themselves. So it's a thing that they want to celebrate. Now, many of them can't yet, but that doesn't mean that they don't aspire to it. They don't think about gender euphoria, queer euphoria. It's a thing. People are so happy to be out, right? So I
Mm.
wanted to mention that. So I want parents to
And
recognize that a lot of times Your child that you think is sad and depressed and sad and depressed, they are sad and depressed, but the reason is not what you're thinking. It's because of the way you are going to react as opposed to respond to them telling you the words, Mom, I'm gay. 3 words, right? Or Dad, I'm gay.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit. I've heard, "Oh, you're just struggling with your sexuality." And I was like, "No, no, no, no. I was struggling when I was trying to be straight. This is like freedom." The struggle isn't with my sexuality. The struggle is with the box you tried to put me in and told me that's the box that would ship me to heaven. I don't want to go in a box. I want to be who I am today,
Yeah.
fully alive. I'd much rather the rest of my life being 10 out of 10 me rather than 8 out of 10 me in front of you. And if you can't handle 10 out of 10 me, that's not my problem. That's your problem.
That's a you
Do
problem.
the
Yes.
work.
And so that's good that you mentioned that because the first thing, I think it's in this book. I think one of the earliest chapters the is about your thoughts. Because it's important that parents examine their thoughts about their child being queer way before the child gets here. Nice rhyme, Dr. Lulu. I want them to examine their thoughts because before you go into having a child, you have ideas of what you want to have, and that's great. I want you to also include intentionally as a pediatrician, what if your child has seizure disorder? What if your child is autistic? What if your child is gay, right? Not because gayness is an illness, but because as a physician, I know that people are medicalizing and pathologizing gay. So let's go there, right? Otherwise, it shouldn't be a thing. But as I said before, I don't see any parents saying, God, okay, give me a little boy with a side of fries and some supersized drink and, or make sure that they're gay. No. And so, because we're not asking for that, I want the parents to stop and think about their thoughts about why they don't want a queer child. It's so important to examine, ask the questions that we don't want to ask, the hard questions. Why don't you want a gay child? And they'll say, well, because I don't want my child to suffer. I say, okay, good. Well, hold that thought. What if you're the child's first bully? What? Yeah. What if you're the first one to tell the child to not be who they are? Oh, yes. Oh, I told my kids, don't act like a girl. You're not a girl. Stop acting like a girl. You're not a girl, right? I was my kid's first bully. So I said, go back and ask yourself, this is a queer woman. Who knows what she went through? I still didn't want my child to go through that. It's not something that's just easy. No, you have to be very intentional to unlearn that immediate shock, that immediate aversion to all things gay, even as a gay person. It's
Hmm.
easy to say that until you're in it. You know, if you're not in it, it's hard. Every parent's like, oh well, I'm so glad my kids. And I said, let me spend 5 minutes with them, and I'll tell you for sure. Like, yeah, because because you don't know, they might very well be hiding in plain sight. So the first thing is to examine their thoughts about. So, what are your thoughts about queer kids, about your child being queer? And the second question, which is serious, close to that one, is where did that thought come from? And so
Yeah.
when you've asked yourself, what are your thoughts? The second question is, where did the thoughts come from? Because if the thoughts came from a queer person who is in the closet, is different from a thought coming from a queer person who is out and proud. And is very different from someone who's not queer, who is going by their own ideas that somebody else gave to them. You see, that's 3 different sources. So one of the talks I give is titled Bias Begins at Home. That's
Hmm.
what we talk about. The fact that the first person that ever told you, don't go there, don't play with that kid, is at home. So we have to first excavate, is what I use. I use the term excavate. Excavate all of that and then put in the real cement. Now that you've unlearned all of this, your original thoughts about having a queer child, where that thought came from, like literally going to investigate where it came from. But you have to do it before the baby gets here. Because at birth, what do? You assign a genital identity to the child. And then you
Mm,
call it a gender identity. And what does the genital identity do? The genital identity forces you to assign a gender role to the child. Nobody's talking about the gender identity, which is a deep personal sense of self. Like, I'm the only one that knows if I'm a girl or not. You don't know until I tell you. Hell, I may
mm.
not even know for sure until I tell me. And so the reason we have to do it before the baby gets here, because when the baby gets here, we're giving the baby a genital identity and attaching a gender role to it immediately. Here, take these blue jerseys and basketball or whatever at birth. And so by the time the kid is 2, which is the age where the very first time they begin to really know and attach their brain to their gender identity, between 2 and 3, if you have a cisgender girl, she say I'm a girl. You have a cisgender boy, he's going to say I'm a boy. Cisgender, that's what I'm talking about. Before that, by that time, we've already fed them so much. The child is not going to say anything. And every time they try, what do? No, be quiet. Don't say that. You're not a boy. Where'd you get that from? Okay, you know what? That's you. You're not spending time with him anymore, or her, or them, or whatever. Do you see what I mean? That's what I mean. So by the time the child finally tells you at 14, you're like, oh my God, you would never been gay before until you went to middle school. You've never been trans before until you went to college. My dad told me he thought it was a phase. My dad is not fucking queer. So how is my dad gonna know it's a phase?
I know, when somebody comes out to their parents, like that is such a pivotal moment. And it's so easy to deflect or to distract or to ignore or to say it's just a phase. What is the best way to approach it? Because I know, like, for me, if I had a parent that, said, "Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me in," gave me a big hug and said, "Oh, I cannot wait to learn more about this
Mhm.
part of you. Tell me more." Like that would have created an environment where a relationship could flourish.
Yeah.
And I think about, like, being a parent myself. I never want my child to feel scared to reveal the most vulnerable part of herself to me,
Yeah.
to reveal a part of her identity. Like, I think if I'm shocked and surprised by something that she's telling me, then I've done something wrong in our relationship to not make it feel safe for her to come to me
Yeah.
and for her to feel joy. Like, you mentioned something, and I really want to pull this back, that queer joy, queer euphoria. I am so happy, and this is a part of me I want to share with people. It's not something I'm
Wanna
ashamed of or
hide.
want
I
to be scared
know.
about. I want you to ask me about it. I want to have a
Yeah.
I want to reveal this part of you, a part of me to you. So from all of the work you've done with parents, what is the way for parents to respond? Because I think maybe it comes to a shock or they don't know how to respond. So they just, you know, how can we prepare parents to respond in the best way
Yeah, I think
possible?
it's best to come with how can you prepare parents, because I still insist that no matter how, for some things you're just never ready. You just jump and then you grow your wings on your way. So the third thing to do to prepare is literally to expect it. And I know one of my coaches, Les Brown, said you never get what you deserve, you get what you expect. And I like expecting, because expecting normalizes hiding in plain sight. Expecting normalizes you not just saying, no, my kids are not gay. It's like you don't get to say that. You don't, because you don't know. And that's my third TEDx talk, is about that. It's called Let the Children Lead: Parenting as Students of Your Child, right? You have to parent as a student of your child, because you don't know your child. Even if you have 26 kids, each one is a different human being. You have to learn them. You can't say, I know that kid. No. And I want to go from there, because that confidence that I know my child is the number one cause of the shock, is the number one
Mm,
cause of the, oh my God, the denial, and then the deflecting, and then maybe even the knee-jerk response to even unlive your own child. I mean, there's so many bad stories coming out of children
yeah.
telling their parents, which is why studies have shown that parents are usually the last to know. Studies have shown that up to 14 years between the child knowing and telling their parents sometimes, right? Or just never telling. So these are real. And so those three things, number one, expecting it, not because you're going to treat your child like they're gay, but just treat your child like the same. Because if your heterosexual child brought a gay home, you're not going to say, are you sure? You're not going to say, don't tell me that. You're going to say, oh, wow, tell me about it. Like literally you want to know, like everybody wants to know, oh, wow, what's her name? Like, oh, okay, where did y'all meet? Like these are the normal questions. So same thing with doctors. I tell doctors, so when the patient says, I'm gay, you don't gulp. Uh, But again, before that, recognizing that anybody in your waiting room could be queer. Any of your employees could be queer. Their family members could be queer. Your co-workers could be queer, right? Expecting. I really love the word expecting. Expecting it to be. So it's no longer like a rarity. Unfortunately, we're living in a world where people who are quote unquote not queer are telling us that we don't exist. So that is the craziest part of it. So it becomes this uphill task instead of a beautiful task. That said, let's just say your child does find you safe enough to tell. The first thing that I tell the parents to say is face the child squarely, make full eye contact, stop what you're doing. Why? Because it took them everything to tell you, because your child is not straight. A straight kid can just say that, Mom, I'm going to Julia's house. And I joke about it all the time. Why is it okay when two kids are playing in the sandbox? One is Tommy and one is Fred. It's okay for Tommy and Fred to be playing in the sandbox as friends or just neighbors' kids. Stay with me here. And then when Tommy and Susan are playing in the sandbox, it's okay to say, oh, Tommy likes Susan. Oh, I wish they could grow up and like become like a couple, right? And it's still okay at 4. But not Tommy and Fred, but it's okay for them to play as friends. So I'm saying that the odds are stacked against your child being gay already. So I want the parents to be prepared for that. Because if the child whose mother, if the two boys playing in the sandbox, if one of them ever tries to insinuate, that friendship is over. Oh, I can't believe you said my little Tommy, he's only 4. Now he's only 4. But when it was Tommy and Susan, he wasn't only 4. So it's just like all of that mess is messy. Now, let's just say the child does tell you. Turn around and face them squarely, because this is a very important moment. 3 words that I learned from another TEDx talk. Tell me more. Those 3 words. I learned that from another TEDx. So when you anybody tell me more, naturally you're leaning in. Naturally you're closing the gap. Naturally you're showing concern. You're showing attention. You're showing interest. Tell me more versus shut up. Don't ever say that again. Who told you that? Where did you learn that from? None of my kids is gay. I didn't teach you that, right? Making me, making it about me. But really, it's not about me. This is not about you. You can't center yourself in this. Oh, woe is me. Oh, what are my friends going to say? What are they going to say? Did they ask you what you're going to cook for dinner? Why should they come and tell you how to respond to your kid? You know? So again, it's just parents understanding that your child needs you at that moment to face them squarely. I use CTA because it's easy. And so C stands for congratulations. But congratulations also stands for, wow, like thank you, or like amazement, or like joy even. Like, oh, girl, it took you long enough. Thank you. You know what? Bring it in here. Like, I've been waiting for you to tell me this for years now, because a lot of parents have low key known, right? So congratulations stands as the word, but also stands for celebrating it, and also reading the room, because if the child is like more mellow kid, they may not want that. I don't know. You know your kid, right? And I wrote some of the things down in the book, some of the things you can say and not say. So just making it look like, okay, you want to hear more. And then saying thank you for finding me safe enough to tell me this. This is amazing. Like, thank you so much. Because knowing fully well that the kid might have told their auntie 4 years ago. One of my siblings' kids told me this years ago, but I'm not allowed to tell yet because it's not my story to tell. And then the A is ask, how can I help you? What can I do to help? What would you like me to do? Who would you like me to tell? Like, what do you want? Is this okay to share at Thanksgiving? I mean, you want to ask the questions that matter versus where did you learn it from? Who told you were gay? Like, who told you that? Like, you are not gay. Like, trying to argue with someone who's 22 that they're not. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, or 37, like, no. Or even 17 or even 5. We know that kids know this thing. So just being able to ask yourself, what are you thinking when a child tells you at 9 that they like the same gender as opposed to the opposite gender? What are you thinking at that moment? Because it's got to be something negative for you to have a negative reaction. If it was just,
Mm.
oh, we're normalizing this. Okay, yeah, sure, fine. Just make sure that you're safe in their house. Make sure that, if you're going to spend the night, I need to know, when are you coming back from, the normal things you would do if it was a heterosexual picture. Again, I want parents to remember how they were at 15, how they were at 13. How easy was it to tell your parents certain things? One. Two, do you remember that there was some things you never told your parents? And I'd say that because when parents say, oh, I know my child. No, you don't. You know what your child wants to tell you. And I'm not making it
Mm.
up. And so when a parent comes and say, oh, listen, my kid would never do that. I'm like, except they did. Right? So you may not know your child. And then again, you may. I don't know. I'm just giving you reasons why it's much more, it's bigger than just do this, do that, do that. If you have a child who is more, like my kid is an introvert, they may just want to tell you and just, okay, so is it okay if I hug you? Like, well, but mom, you didn't hug so and so. When okay, well, okay, no problem. No hugs, no hugs. What would you like me to do, mom? It's fine. Just don't make a big deal of it, please, and don't tell uncle such and so. Or please don't tell dad. I want to talk about that. Please don't tell dad.
Yeah.
When the child says, please don't tell grandma, I want you to know that there is a reason. The child does not want to invite that person yet. That person has not earned that. That child does not feel safe yet. I don't care if you're sleeping with them. I don't care if you're fucking them at night. The child said, please don't tell that for a reason. And don't tell me we don't keep secrets because that's not true. Because I know you bought a pair of red shoes last week and you did not show it to your husband. So don't tell me that, right? So what you do rather is, oh, interesting. Can you please tell me more? Mom, I don't want to talk about it yet. Okay. Okay. Because what you don't want to do is shut the door and have your invitation rescinded. Okay, mom, that's it.
It's not.
Never telling you again. Like, you don't want that. Okay. All right. I'm not going to tell grandma and I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. Mom, are you sure? Yes, I promise. Cross my heart. Okay, good. And maybe one day say, mom, you remember how I told you not to tell dad a week ago? Phew, here's why. Right? When they're ready. Here's why. Maybe you're walking down the street talking about chickens and crosses. And it's like, and that's why I didn't want you to tell. And then that's exactly why I didn't want you to tell dad. Maybe it's a year later. That's exactly why I didn't want you to tell dad. Because I heard him say, because I heard him watching, because I saw him do it. You don't know. That's exactly why I didn't want you to tell Aunt Susan, because I happen to know that Aunt Susan's kid is, and this is what the kid said about what you don't know. So just
Mm.
respecting the child's boundaries and being grateful for being invited in. And if you focus on gratitude, honestly, you don't have time to focus on all the other things. And just knowing that it will come in time or may never come. That's the child's story to tell. That's a child's story to tell.
And it reminds me, it's their party to invite people into. It's not
Mhm.
your to invite people to. And as you're
And it's
talking,
not
I'm
our
thinking.
party either. It's not our party. It's your party.
Hmm.
Makes a difference.
And I'm thinking about all of the signals, like those subtle signals we were talking about that let people know you're safe. It's not just what you're saying, but it's also about the media you're consuming. Is the
Yes.
news you're consuming talking about LGBTQ plus people poorly, or is it open?
Or is it
Is the media
voting for the wrong people? Like, we don't know what
voting
the kids are
that?
watching. We don't know what the kids are watching you do. We don't know what they're seeing you do. It could be you voted. Maybe you said something sympathetic about someone that we, what? Oh, I'm never telling you. And then maybe I said, so dad, what did you mean? Oh, of course. I mean, I did it. Oh, okay. Well, X marks the spot, right? We don't
Yeah.
know. So it's not just what you say, it's what you do, is your energy around it. Are you more sympathetic to people who are homophobic, even without saying anything? You know, your neighbors down the street have called somebody else a fag before. And then I hear you, I just see you shaking hands. Wait, what? So we don't know the reasons why. And that's why we must respect the child's boundaries. So you're very, very right about that. It's not just what the parents are saying.
And I also think about like when I became a parent, there were a few thoughts going in my head about like, oh, I wonder what kind of parent I want to be. And I think that's the wrong question. I quickly realized not what kind of parent I want to be, but what kind of parent does my child need from me to be? It's how can I create an environment, a home, a parenting philosophy and idea that's going to allow them to flourish in life, not because it's what I needed, but it's because of what they need.
What they need. And
And
I'll
so,
say that I love that. I love that line of thinking. And as a pediatrician and as just someone who always tries to poke holes in things, I also want the parents to allow themselves to have grace,
yeah,
because you cannot, it's just not possible for anybody to be everything to somebody
yeah.
else, including your child. And I love your heart. I love that you love your kid, but I don't want you to put your expectations so high. Again, you get what you expect, right? And so high, and the kid is like, Dad, but I didn't ask you to do all that. And you're like, oh, but I thought, no, that was, you thought that. I didn't say
Mm,
that, right? Again, just, I say becoming a parenting as a student is, what I thought you were going to say is, what kind of parent my child is going to teach me. Like, if my child is teaching it to me,
wow.
because I cannot know what the child needs until the child. So being a safe parent, that the child can come to me for any and every, now we're talking. And then being honest. You know what, Susan? Honestly, I don't know anything about that.
Mm,
I want parents to be okay saying, you know what, let me go learn about transness, because I don't know anything about it. I know there's a lot of things going on about it, so let me go learn about it. And sometimes, it depending on the age of the child, my kid sent me to something called the gender, I think it was called Gender Bible. So that was the name. It's a gender Bible or something online. It's like a Wikipedia kind of thing for gender identity. I was like, what? I never heard about that. So again, allowing the child to say, okay, mom, well, listen to this podcast, right? Read this book, right? This is called Gender Bible. I think that's the name. My
mm.
kid is 28 now, so we're talking about years ago. But I did. I looked at that book because this book took me almost 3 years to write. So I was on that page a lot, and then I learned what I thought I needed for the book, and then But yeah, allowing the child who is the authority in who they are to, maybe if they have the bandwidth to give resources. You see, it's a lot of ifs. In the meantime, you can go. And that actually brings us to the answer to your question. I have an ABCDEF of affirming your LGBTQ plus child, so that parents
Mm.
can understand. There's some tricks to it. If your child is 4, they can tell you the podcast to listen to. So the A is awareness. Honestly, awareness that your child, 3 A's, awareness that your child could be queer. Just allowing yourself to go there and just think about that. Think all the way to the third, fourth or fifth level of thinking. Okay, all right, phew. What if the child is gay? What if the child is gay? What if 5 ways, right? Okay. So awareness. And then B is believe them when they tell you that they are. I don't know any child in their normal mind today with the way the world is going. It's going to say, yes, yes, Lord, make me gay. Like, no. However, comma, if you find that you are, okay. So when I tell you, you need to believe me because I'm not going to make, why will I make, of all the things I can make up? Be like, God, give me gay with a side of fries. No, it's just not a thing. But then if it is, then when I tell you, believe me. And then C is create a safe space in your heart first, which is where the thoughts, before the child is born, and then in your home, such that the child can invite you in. And the example I give is America's Top Model. When it first came out, everybody was still young then. My ex-wife and I were all like, oh, Miss J, why is he so much? Why you gotta be so much? My kid was like,
Hmm.
oh, he's just, oh, Jesus Christ. Can he just be soft, more subtle? Like, why does he have to be so gay? Right? The
Wow.
house was not safe. The kid said to me, Mom, I would have never, ever told you I was gay. I said, well, she said, because the house was not safe. You are openly homophobic. I'm like, well, yes, you. And Auntie Linda, I'm like, oh, but openly homophobic in our
Hmm.
words. And we just thought it was funny. Oh, there he, oh, why, why you gotta be so gay? That's what we said all the time. And we're like, high five each other, like, oh, I know he's gonna probably do a split
And I
now,
want to point out this would be
you
you
know?
and your ex-wife
Yes!
saying this.
But, 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 but this is what I mean by when people are indoctrinated on learning is not only for straight people. We have gay people who are openly transphobic. We have
Yeah.
gay people who are racist. We have, I mean, it's not me and my ex-wife only. The unlearning is real. The need to unlearn. But in that moment, we were not thinking anything about it. But the child was watching. And so were the siblings, by the way. It's not just kid. When I say bias begins at home, that's what I mean, right? All the messages we give that makes people make certain decisions about other people, split decisions. Oh, he's white, he's got to be racist. That's a learned behavior. No baby is born with that. Oh, he's black, he's got to
Hmm.
be beneath me. That's a learned behavior. No baby was born with that. And so again, when I come to like, how much time do you have? I'm not joking because it's a big, wide variety. And I'm not ashamed to talk about it because it's all part of learning. Once you recognize you own your story, I own it now. Yes, we were married together, we're happily married, which should have been an ideal example for my kid. Yet we were spewing this without even thinking about it. We were openly homophobic because we had our own internalized homophobia from being raised in Nigeria, in Africa, in a Catholic religion, and all that and all that. Even though we were a little out, we were not out enough, obviously, because we were not still safe for my kid.
Hmm.
Yes.
And so, okay, we are at awareness, believe them, create a safe space.
Hmm.
What's next?
The D is make a decision. Like decide today to affirm your child no matter what. You have to make that decision. Nobody can make it for you. Decide to say, I don't care what I'm doing. In my case, my ex-husband was 26 million times more homophobic than me. So I was like, oh, honey, I don't want anybody sending me thoughts and prayers. I'm going to affirm this kid. Well, before I knew the word affirm, I was using accept, and she told me affirm. I had to go look up what affirm was, and then I came up with my own definition of affirm. We'll go back. We'll go talk about that later. But I'm just saying that. So I was like, oh, there's no question. Oh, it's automatic. Oh, listen, this kid for sure. One of this child's parents is gonna be there for them. So I made a decision.
Mm,
It didn't matter what family members, Nigerians, all the immigrants. No, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. This is my kid that I carry my stomach and I breastfeed. No. So decision, decide, and that's it. You don't decide wobbly. I saw a picture on social media recently. It was a butterfly and a caterpillar having tea. And the caterpillar said to the butterfly, "You've changed a lot. What did you take?" The butterfly said, "Decisions." That was
wow.
it. The butterfly said, "I'm going to become, but I'm not going to be a worm, no, for the whole rest of, no. I'm going to do what it takes to
Mm,
become a butterfly." So I want the parents to decide. And then E is educate yourself, right? You got to empower yourself with education. So again, don't expect your 4-year-old child, in case it's 4. I don't know how old the kid is going to be when they tell you, even if they're 8. In my case, I was 9 when I knew, and then I told my aunt at 11. An 11-year-old child should not be educating you, right? You can educate yourself. This is 2029. Like, you have access to the internet. And so educate yourself. So empower yourself through education. Learn everything you can about queerness. Because one of my co-hosts of my podcast, she had 2 trans sons.
mm,
2 trans sons. I know people who have 1 queer son, 1 gay son, 1 trans kid, 1 non-binary. Educate yourself. 1 lesbian. I don't know. We don't know the combination, right? Educate yourself about queerness. And then F is find community. Find other parents. Find other doctors. That's what you would do anyway. If you're moving to Las Vegas, you're going to find people who live in Las Vegas. You're going to say, well, who all live in Las Tell me about it, right? You're going to do that. So find community so you can finish strong, right? Because you want to finish as the parent your kid will be proud of.
mm,
Nothing cooler than a child saying, my mom is cool. Or better still, other kids saying, wow, your mom is cool. So cool is spelled ABCDEF. And when I give talks to parents, when I get to F, I open it up and I say, okay, we're gonna go from the next letter alphabet. Let's start making up words. And G might be go vote for the right person, right? Right? H might be handle homophobia, right? I don't know, right? I
mm,
mean, so just like that. Right, just like that. We keep going. And then they realize that, wow, it's actually not that hard to affirm. No, it's not. You just have to
mm.
normalize it.
You know what? What's really apparent is how much work you're willing to do, like internal work, and how much internal work you've done.
Thank you for affirming me, because I have done a lot of work, because I obsess about this. I obsess about it because I know that there's so little knowledge about it. And I obsess about not just a child coming out to the parent, but also a parent coming out to the child, because we have parents who also find out that they're queer at 47 and at 97 or whatever age, right?
Okay, because
So
I do want to dive into that because
yeah,
one of the reasons
that's a
it came
whole
out,
thing that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to touch. So
yeah,
one of the keynotes I give is called Queerness Through the Ages, right? I talk about how,
mm,
at 2 and at 4 and at 7 and at 8 and then 11, and what is it like all through the ages. I give that talk to family practice doctors, because they see 0 to 99. So but they need to know, like, when 75-year-old might come out next week.
one of the
Like,
reasons that
"Ah,
motivated me so much to come out so publicly was knowing that I didn't want to make it harder for me to come out to my daughter later.
mm,
She's 3 years old right now, and I wanted to normalize this conversation so that it's normal for her, and I can just make it a part of my parenting and not like this big sudden surprise I don't think there's a lot of conversation around that
There's
though
no, there's
of a
not. Listen,
parent.
let me tell you something. I have a brand new queer book club, and the second book that we read, which was is titled "You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty" by Akweke Emezi, is a Nigerian queer author. In that book, one of the characters' father is bisexual, and the young man is 27 or 25, and is in extreme denial, and just this knee jerk response about, I know he's not gay. He's not gay. Like, it's also important that children don't hold their parents captive and lock their parents in the closet. Yeah, so that reminds me of what I wanted to
Mm,
say. What I wanted to say is, the more we normalize conversations about everybody can come out gay at any age, adult children can also begin to recognize that that's okay for their parents. And this is adult straight kids, right? That their parents could be gay. The same unlearning, because the same
mm,
message is in the society. It's in the air. It's like pollen. We're all exposed to it. The same messages. And so it's also okay for, and listen, the day I thought about that, I was like, what? So I quickly put it in my, as a chapter in my book, because I was like, I say that because as my kid was coming out, it gave me more courage to come out too.
wow.
And so I say that what I say to parents is, when your child comes out, you have to also come out. And you can come out as queer, or you can come out as an ally, but honey, you got to come out. Because allyship is not a subtle thing. It's a very active thing. You have to roll up your sleeves to come out as an ally. You have to stand up and be counted. This is not, you're not like, oh, I'm an ally. This is the back of my phone. It says visible ally on it. So I hold my phone
Mm,
like this so people can see I'm not one of those people. See. If I don't have my phone, you see me, or my ear, something. Like so you have to come out as an advocate. You have to come out as an ally. You might even come out as an activist if you're like me, right? But come out you must. This is not like, it's not subtle. And I give them this difference between acceptance and affirmation. Acceptance means I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and it's okay, right? Go about your way, right? Affirmation is I see you, I hear you, I believe you, it's okay, and how can I fucking support you? Like, what can I do to make sure that everything I'm thinking, everything I'm saying, everything I'm doing is saying that you are who you say you are? That's affirmation. Is the next, is 10 stories up, right? Because it takes it from just like passive. People that accept are like, yeah, yeah, I love the sin and I don't love the sin, or whatever bullshit that they say. And I'm 57, by the way. I cuss. I don't know if, if you,
I
I
fucking love
cuss
it.
because it's like, and I tell my kids, my own children, I say, look, it's like chicken. It's just a word. Just keep going. Like, it's just a word. Like, so it's like, you need to know that, oh yeah, I love my child, but I don't approve of, no, 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 no. You don't get to love me conditionally. Like, only when the sun is out, but when the sun is not, no, you don't get to say, yeah, you love some of me, but not all of me. You can't love me in bits and pieces. You have to love all of me or none of me. And guess what? That's okay too, right? So one of the things I say about parenting, just fully, is when your child comes out, you have to also come out. I didn't say do it tomorrow. That's not what we're talking about here. Remember, we talked about all the things you have to do antes. If you're doing all those things antes, then by the time the kid gets here, you're like ready, right? As opposed to, oh my God. And the world is kind of taken from you, which is what happened to me. I was like, wait, trans, what? Everyone is going to think that I made the child gay. Everyone's going to think that I like da 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 da. But I was thinking about everyone except the kid. I
Hmm.
was worried about everyone else except the kid. And yesterday, 2 days ago, I wrote a poem. Oh my God, you don't want to hear. The poem is titled "Today I'm Going to My Funeral," because I
Hmm.
went to bed last night and I didn't wake up. And so it starts by saying, today I'm going to my funeral because I went to bed last night, I didn't wake up. Today I'm going to my funeral because I'm nosy and I'm curious. And I've always been nosy and curious. And I want to know what people are going to say about me and things like that. Like, and I'm sitting in the front and then they pass me and I say, would they recognize me? And then I'm sitting in the middle and then I'm sitting at the back and I'm like, okay, I'm now sitting at the back. Everybody's passing me out the flowers. Can they even really recognize me? Like, all those times I was making myself smaller so that they would be comfortable. How many of them are going to say that? Like all the things I did, all the times I doubted myself, all the times I had curiosity, but I made a U-turn instead of being curious. I let myself shrink and all the things I wasn't enough. And oh my God, how many of them remember it? How many of them even came to my funeral that I thought I loved, that I thought I cared about? So it's a very long spoken word piece. I'm going to be doing that in May in New Jersey. I just wrote it 2 days ago. It scared me. I cried when I was reading. I was like, oh my God. Like when I was talking about my children, like will my kids know that I did everything so that they could do? Like I lived out loud so that they could live out loud. I had no excuse so that they will have no excuses. Like, do they even recognize that? Like, so it makes you just kind of like, wow, I'm at my own funeral. Like, who came? Who wore black and who didn't? Who's smiling and who, like after the casseroles have long gone, who's checking on my kid a year from now?
Wow.
Who's checking on my kid 2 years from now? Like what happened to my legacy? What's left of it, if any at all? Like, I was like, wow, what's happening? But the words just kept coming. So I just kept writing.
Mm.
That's what I'm talking about when your child tells you they're queer. It's not about this moment. It's about when you go out tomorrow and you're talking to Susan and Susan says, oh, it's the gays again. What do you say? That's how I know if you're an ally or not. That's how I know if you're just accepting or from if Susan, no, no, Susan, no, 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 no. Susan, you know what? You can't say that. Why? Well, tell me why you said that. Challenge them. Wait, 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 wait. I thought you were like, no, no, that's before my kid told me. If your kid says it's okay to tell, right? Or that's before I knew better. Like you don't have to out your kid. You can just say that's before I knew better. Now I know better. Wait, are you one of them? Maybe I am. If I am, what? Like, be ready for that. Let's be my new
Mm.
friends. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Okay. I just don't want you saying stuff about people that you don't know because what did the gay person do to you? Like literally, when you unlearn, you can come out fully, right? Before that, you're like, but when your child is facing the big S word, there's no time for you to be condoning people that no. And your child needs to hear you defending them because now they'll wait, mom, didn't you hear what she said? They're like, yeah, but what? Because you might be the only safe person for their own child. That's what I'm talking about here. So allyship is like a ripple effect. It's multiplied. So I came up with a whole mathematical equation for affirmation. I said it was affirmation equals acceptance plus um plus allyship multiplied by advocacy or something crazy like that. I was like, no, no, affirmation is acceptance plus allyship times advocacy. Like it's like you have to really like be out there now because this is no longer them. It's us now. It's us.
And I think one of the big ideas that I love you bring into the table is the idea that allyship is not silence,
Mm-mm.
and that silence isn't neutral. Like it's not just not saying something; it is actively saying, "I support, I stand for, I fight for." I, I am a safe person. You have to say that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the message doesn't get through
No.
and you don't make progress.
No, you don't. We don't. And all of us don't. We all stop. And that silence is not neutral is huge in the medical field because medicine is fundamentally patriarchal, it's fundamentally homophobic, it's fundamentally colonial, right?
Hmm.
It's the in medical textbooks The average person is a 70 kg man. The adult patient in medical textbooks is a 70-kilogram man. Well,
Wow.
that man is not a trans man. The average trans men are not average. I'm not saying that there are no outliers, right? What about me? I'm not a 70 kg man. It's patriarchal.
Yeah.
It's colonial. So we have to unlearn that. Unlearn the fact that in medical schools, no one is being taught about LGBTQ plus. And one of my friends said, when I asked them, what if they learn it, they said, yes, I learned it as part of my difficult patients program. Classes. I'm like,
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
I have it on social. Social media. You just take a screenshot, and I used it to teach the psychiatrist last weekend in New Orleans. So we learned about it as part of our difficult patients course. You don't know me. How am I? So you see the stance of the doctor when they tell them that the patient is LGBT, who learned that there's a difficult patient, is already like, but the patient is
Yeah.
just like, I'm never going back to that doctor. They're like, what? It, I'm just not going back. Like, it's like,
Mm.
eh, it's just too much. So they're not taught. There's a huge gap in learning, and yet the patients are coming every day. And so people like me, we have to stand in the gap because I am the patient and I am the doctor. When my kid, the reason I
Yeah.
started writing this book is because the kid came home one day and said, Mom, I'm done. And I said, done with what? She was coming from her Planned Parenthood. I said, done with what? She said, I'm done teaching my doctors. I'm done being the deviant black man. I'm done being the token. No, I'm done. And while she said, Mom, I'm done, what I heard was, Mom, what are you going to do about it? Because you are also a physician, by the way. Oh, a pediatrician for that matter. So when your child
Wow.
gives you a that kind of challenge, you can't turn around and walk away. So I had to quit medicine to do this. I had to, because I was like, no, this is too needed. It's too needed. There's no one else talking about it.
You mentioned colonization, and you mentioned also earlier the like water and oil effect of like African countries and the LGBTQ plus. And I heard you in another interview say that it's so often forgotten that anti-LGBTQ plus
It's not
perspective and
African.
attitude
Yes.
is not African. It's a
Not inherently.
colonized belief that
Yes.
was given. Break that down a little bit.
Well, it's not because ancient African nations, ancient African cultures had same gender, just any indigenous culture had same gender loving, had third genders, right? Had same sex, if you want to use that. They had other genders, the two spirit people, the Mushe in Mexico, the um, um, in Igbo land, the Muhammadu people, which is people who have more than one spirit, right? In many, many African cultures, my very first chapter, like I said, it looks into Africa and LGBT. How? So Orthodox religion is not African.
Hmm.
Abrahamic religion is not African. It was not
Mm.
born in Africa. It was imported to us by colonizers. The Christian missionaries, they were not black originally. They were not black. They came to the country with the pretext of bringing religion. They brought diseases, they brought guns, they brought chains. They took children from Africa back as slaves, right? And oh, by the way, your religion is devilish, is voodoo, is bad. I mean, part of the hidden racism or hidden colonization is, why is devil's food cake brown and angel's food
Mm.
cake white? Why is the devil black skin and Jesus blonde hair and blue eyes from Israel? How?
Wow.
I mean, it's just this little things like that that's pervasive. It's been fed to us so much so that in Africa now, Christianity is like so, it's a psychosis almost. And you and I
Yeah.
know that if truly Christianity was the solution, we shouldn't have any more problems. Look how long it's been in existence. And yet, many times I look at my news and look at my phone, I see yet another Republican pastor pedophile. Yet another, almost every day. I'm
Yeah.
not making this stuff up.
Yeah. I think
I
I read a statistic
Go
that
ahead.
said you're more likely to be sexually assaulted by within your church
Mhm.
than ever at a drag story reading.
We have
Yeah.
look at the part where colonization is still so heavy and certain really Abrahamic religion is what my kid called it in one of my books. He said it was
Yeah.
Abrahamic religion because that's the one that says that there's one God, right? And my dad, which is very funny, I asked my dad one time, I said, "So, Daddy, when you think about the concept of God, what do you see?" And my dad said, a white man. And I love him so much. And I was like, "But Daddy, you're made in God's image. How is it white? Why isn't it a
Yeah.
black Nigerian man? And why is mine not a black Nigerian woman?" Right?
Hmm.
And so just us being, why is my kids are not a trans woman? Like, if we're made in God's image, nobody has really seen God that we know of today, right? We don't know what God looks like, which is what brings me to God's pronouns not being he, him. That's patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
But the Father, why is it okay? Why is that? Why is it okay for the Ten Commandments to say, thou shalt not commit adultery, and doesn't say thou shalt not be homophobic? Yet we have adulterers, but we don't want it's like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So good. Um, well, Dr. Lulu, this has been, I mean, incredible. I think there's a lot of our viewers who are within the LGBTQ plus community. They're queer, they're parents who are trying to figure out how do I respond. And I think there's been so much helpful information here.
my next book is titled First Do No Further Harm, and that's for doctors. I cannot wait. That's coming out in
Hmm.
June. First Do No Further Harm is actually for, even though it's our oath, but everyone needs to be aware of the fact that we cannot do any more further harm to anyone,
Yeah.
so we can take it bigger, right? And if I may, I would just like to mention that
Please
one of
do.
the things I do with the queer community is as a life coach is help them with their journey of either inviting people in or relationships or just living life, just being able to advocate for themselves as a doctor. If it's their family members that need support on how to support them, I can do that. So my practice is called the Lulu's
Mm,
Pride Corner, and we have three major branches: the queer person themselves, their parents or support members, and then physicians as an educator, as a professor in medical school learning to do
mm,
that. So I want people to know that there are people like me, and my job is to stand between their regular doctor and their psychiatrist, because honestly, there's no diagnosis. Being queer is not a diagnosis. It's not a problem that needs to be fixed. It's not.
yeah,
And so we should not be seeing a doctor for queerness, right?
yeah,
But if you're queer and you're stuck trying to figure out life, you can come to someone who has lived experience, right? And can maybe help you figure out exactly why you're stuck and what really the problem is. Because most times they think if I can just make a decision, but the truth is they've just been carrying it for such a long time by themselves. They just need a safe space to offload, to actually like look
mm,
at the what's happening and what are the facts and what are we making those facts mean, because a lot of times that's where the problem is, right? You have a situation here and then you make it mean something else. My child is gay, so that means I'm a bad parent. That's not true, but
yeah,
that's what people make it mean. My child is
mm,
gay, so that means I can't have grandkids. That's not true. So again, what are you making your child is gay mean? My child is gay. That means whatever X is, let's solve for that X. And again, going
so
back
good.
to what is the thought? Where did the thought come from? And is it even true that gay people can have kids?
Mm. So good. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit to that. Listen, if you're listening to this and you want to amplify your queer joy, you got to be around Dr. Lulu, cuz let me tell you, the queer joy and euphoria I'm feeling right now after this interview is through the roof. So, Lulu, you're amazing. How do people get in touch with you?
So on Instagram is at Coach Udaku. Udaku's Udaku. And I think that's the same thing on Threads, which is where we met, which is so good.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook is Udaku, which is the name that my grandmother used to call me, Lulu, and then my government name, which is my last name, Ume. So for those who know me as Dr. Ume as a physician, those who know me as Dr. Lulu, or those who know me as Coach Udaku, they can find me on Facebook. On LinkedIn, which is where I like to hang out a lot more, is just Dr. Lulu. If you type in Dr. Lulu, if you Google Dr. Lulu pediatrician, you will see everything about me, all my interviews and all the things.
Dr. Lulu, thank you so much for being on the show. All of the details and links that we mentioned will be in the description below. Thank you so much, Dr. Lulu.
You're very welcome.
As you know, I'm on a mission to expand what it means to be LGBTQ plus in leadership positions. One way you can help is by subscribing to this channel. By subscribing, you make our content more visible and get it in front of the right people. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Proud to lead.
Proud to Lead is produced by Next Step Social and Podcasting. Thank you to everyone who made this episode possible. For more information, visit nextstepsocial.com/proudtolead.